Good evening. I hope all of you are enjoying the first day, lovely sessions inside, outside. So our second last session of the day in Darbar Hall. Once again, a very warm welcome to all of you at the 16th edition of Jaipur Literature Festival, protected by Dettol, Banega Swasth India at Darbar Hall. This session, a book launch, first edition, Legend of the Snow Queen. An ominous ET, a dead body by the frozen lake, a cryptic message. Hotel D. Christine is all set to celebrate the 180th birthday of Sissi, the Empress Elizabeth of Austria. In her honor, a peace treaty between 5 European nations is to be signed. But a day before, antique swans, the muskets of the treaty are stolen. A message threatens to disrupt the treaty unless the Empress walks the Sissi route again and retrieves a soul song. But Sissi has been dead for more than 100 years. An investigative journalist, Parker, plunges into the snowy trail along with hotel guest Rosamond. He unravels a conspiracy that brings royal history and love together in a dramatic finale. Set against Christmassy Bavarian winter wonderland, Legend of the Snow Queen is a chilling international conspiracy and a haunting love story. Manjiri Prabhu, the writer of the book, is an award-winning international author of 19 mystery and thriller novels, a short filmmaker, and the curator and founder director of 2 international festivals, Pune International Literary Festival and International Festival of Spiritual India. Acknowledged as a pioneer in India among women writers of the mystery fiction, she is the first female mystery author to be published outside India and is known to be the Indian Agatha Christie. Alka Pande is an art historian and ex-reader of Indian arts and aesthetic at Punjab University. Pande is a curator, arts manager, prolific and extensive writer, and writer of many prestigious and highly coveted awards in India and abroad. Her major fields of interest are gender, identity, sexuality, traditional art, and heritage. To launch the book, we have Dr. Shashi Tharoor, a third-term member of the parliament from Thiruvananthapuram. He is the best-selling author of many books, 24 books, both fiction and non-fiction, beside being a former Under-Secretary General of United Nations and a former Minister of State for Human Resource Development for External Affairs in the Government of India. He has won numerous awards for his various books. So please welcome Dr. Shashi Tharoor on the stage. And now I request Manjiri Prabhu to speak a few words before we start the conversation.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for being here for the launch of my 19th book. It's a beautiful cold evening, just right for a novel based in snowy landscapes. I keep saying 19th book, not to show off, although I'm very proud of it, but there's a very uncanny coincidence. This is my 19th work to be launched on the 19th of January, which I began writing in 2019 January. Isn't that something? Well, I started writing destination thrillers in 2017. This is my 3rd book. By some crazy, happy stroke of luck, I had the privilege of Dr. Tharoor launching the first book in the destination thriller series, that's The Trade of Four. A second stroke of luck brought him to launch the 2nd book, Voice of the Rules. And as destiny would have it, today is the 3rd crazy, happy stroke of luck that Dr. Tharoor is launching Legend of the Snow Queen. We all know that that a multifaceted, dynamic person that Dr. Tharoor is busy and multitasking on different fronts. So I'm really, really grateful that he's launching this. Thank you so much, Dr. Tharoor, for your support and encouragement. Dr. Alka Pande is not only a dear friend, but a guardian angel in the wings. She's always there, always willing, and always giving. Thank you, Alka. A special thanks to my friend Namita Gokhale and this amazing festival that she and her colleagues have pioneered. The energy is electrifying. Thank you to my publisher, Romania, and Dipankar Mukherjee. And thank you to all of you for being here today. Thank you. And then, yeah.
Thank you all for putting up with me. I'm really here just to launch the book, and I will leave the two ladies to the conversation. But I do want to say what a pleasure it is. Manjiri is actually, in addition to being a writer, a brilliant organizer of literary festivals. She does one in Pune, which I would commend to all of you who happen to be going to that part of the country. It's a terrific festival, much smaller in scale than Jaipur, but with overflowing halls for every event, and very well organized in one of the more literate and cultured cities of our country. And that's how I first got to know her, and then discovered she was also a writer. And she writes in a genre that I'm not often associated with, I'd like to think, the thriller, the mystery thriller. But she does so with tremendous flair and has also managed to find a niche for herself as the only Indian author who writes elaborately plotted mysteries set in Europe. And not just in Europe, but very specifically in Germany. Am I right?
This one is in Germany.
In Germany. Well, Germany or German-speaking parts of the world, and you've done Austria and Switzerland as well. So she certainly has a taste for that part of the world. Maybe it gives her a very good excuse to go there to do her field research. But she does write most intriguingly and interesting. Now, what do you expect from a thriller? You expect there to be something you haven't come across before. You'll get that with Manjiri. You will want there to be enough twists and turns to keep you engaged and keep you turning the pages, and she certainly gives you that. You'll want the characters to move the action along. You're not looking for profound philosophy or great wisdom, but there's got to be enough there to keep you interested, and Manjiri will give you that too. So in every respect, these are books that, if you are interested in the genre and you like reading mystery thrillers, you can't really go wrong with any of Manjiri's. This is now the third that I've had the pleasure of launching. I know that a couple of people saw the title, A Legend of the Snow Queen, and said, "You're launching a children's book?" And I said, "It's not a children's book. It's going to be full of adult adventures and murders and mysteries and so on." And at the same time, in this particular one, Manjiri has gone a little bit into fascinating aspects of history, where the famous Queen Sissi, as she was known, is a predominantly interesting figure in this 21st century narrative. There's a number of things to be explained, but I certainly don't want to give any of it away beyond what the two ladies might be willing to disclose when they discuss the book. All I want to say is that Manjiri, as somebody who both promotes and supports other writers' writing, and who herself applies to herself the discipline, the skill, and the challenge of actually writing novels that people want to read, does the profession proud and deserves all our support and blessings. So congratulations, Manjiri. I really wish Legend of the Snow Queen all success, and I'm sure that all of you here would look forward to the conversation between two fine writers who have a very good understanding of each other's work as well. So thank you all very much, and I look forward to unveiling the book and then leaving you in their capable hands. Thank you.
So now Dr. Shashi Tharoor, Manjiri, and Alka Pande, three of them will unveil the book. Dr. Shashi Tharoor has to leave, so I leave the session to Alka Pande and Manjiri to get into the conversation about the book. Over to you, Alka.
Thank you, Mani. Since we are racing with time every day,
Just keep it straight, the chair.
since we are racing with time, I'll go straight to the questions. Manjiri has been called many names. She's been likened to many people. Shashi Tharoor calls her the Dan Brown. Some people have called her the Agatha Christie. And some people call her the Enid Blyton. So who are you, Manjiri?
Yeah, with all those names, I think I'm Agatha Enid Brown. I think I've completely lost my identity for no fault of mine, but actually I'm Manjiri Prabhu, and I wrote my mystery novels in 1994, and I think that time I was one of the pioneering mystery novelists in the country. There was no comparison. There was no one to fall back on, so they automatically thought I wrote like Agatha Christie. Then I started writing my thrillers, so automatically I was likened to Dan Brown. I started writing children mysteries, and automatically it was Enid Blyton. So although I really have not set out to copy any styles, but it's just mystery, thrillers, the genre is so widely exploited abroad that you automatically compare all our Indian writers to foreign writers. I think that's a drawback as well as a plus point, I would say.
So while we have our own share of people who are writing mysteries, thrillers, and short stories for children, which are set within the Indian landscape, you've actually gone out. We hear of destination weddings, but now it's been destination thrillers. So what is it which makes you go to a specific destination? And why this is your 19th book, and for each of them, you have a different destination. I remember Voice of the Runes had a different destination, and now you have this very complex two nations, Austria and Germany, who have a strong relationship with each other, and you've drawn characters from here. So would you tell us a little bit about your destinations?
But the way I look at it, you can have destination weddings. Why can you not have destination thrillers? So I put it very simply. If you remove the cheese from a cheese sandwich, would you call it a cheese sandwich? Or a sabudana khichdi? I know there are no Maharashtrians here, but if you remove the sabudana from the khichdi, it doesn't remain sabudana khichdi. Similarly, if you remove the destination from my thriller, it doesn't become a destination thriller. By that I mean that the destinations are actually not just backdrops, they are like characters in the books. So I pick up a piece of history or a piece of tradition or a culture from a certain part of Europe, and I bring it into the contemporary world, and I turn it into a plot. And so without that destination and without that thread, there would be no book. And that is why it's a destination thriller. I mean, people do base lots of books on, like Yash Chopra has all these backdrops for all his songs. But to use a character, you really need to go there and stay there and research at all levels and then turn it into a character. So that's where it all actually began, my love for traveling and also my love for writing.
So would you tell the audience a little bit about the legend of the Snow Queen? First and foremost, why the Snow Queen? We think of the Snow Queen when we think of Grimm's fairy tales, the Summer Queen and the Snow Queen. So one, why have you called the book? First, let's go with this question. Why have you called it The Legend of the Snow Queen?
So for that, you have to understand what the book is about. The book is basically about, it's based in Lake Starnberg, which is about 25 kilometers from Munich, which is where two main important characters had lived. That is King Ludwig II. Okay, he was called the Mad King. If you know, he's built these castles like the Neuschwanstein Castle or the Linderhof Castle. If you've been there, the fairy tale castle that Disney uses, the inspiration. So he was called the Mad King because he, completely spent the government coffers on all these fantastic castles. But he drowned in that Lake Starnberg when he was held captive there. That's one part of the story. The other part is his cousin. If you've seen the latest Netflix series, The Empress, has anyone seen it? Yes, that's right. So Sissi, or Empress of Austria, was King Ludwig II's cousin. Okay, and they were very close, and she was 8 years older than him. Her sister was supposed to be married to the Emperor of Austria, but when she went, to see him and with the sister and for the engagement, he fell in love with Sissi. And within a couple of weeks, she got engaged and married to Franz Joseph. Now, these two characters are completely, how should I say, very fascinating characters. They are interlinked at various levels. They were like soul connects. And the entire history, the backdrop, takes place in Lake Starnberg. So Snow Queen is kind of a takeoff from Sissi, who used to go and stay in this hotel called Kaiser and Elizabeth in Lake Starnberg just to meet King Ludwig II for 24 summers. It was only after he died that she stopped going there. So this whole concept of the Snow Queen, which I bring to the forefront with a character called Rosamund, who helps Ray Parker, who's my detective. She assists him, but Rosamund is actually some kind of a takeoff and a spin-off on Snow Queen, and how and why, you'll know when you read the book.
So will you tell us a little bit about Sissi, Princess Sissi? The interesting thing is, when I've done a bit of work in Vienna, and I stayed in this lovely hotel called the Kaiserin Elisabeth, and she was a very, very beautiful woman. So how do you bring in Princess Sissi into the character of the Snow Queen?
So, although I use history as a part of the plot, these are not historical fiction. And why do I say that? Because I do not bring those characters physically. I don't go there and write about them. I don't base my novels in that period. I bring those characters in some form or the other through situations or plots or storyline into the present tense. And that is how I brought Sissi in. What I tried to do was, so Sissi was a kind of a disturbed person in the sense she was very beautiful, of course, very conscious of her looks, unhappy in her marriage, and she was a, how should I say, a wanderer. She loved life, and she was constrained by all these royal duties and royal restrictions. So she was kind of disturbed, and I tried to bring the complex nature of her existence in the book through a contemporary character. So that's how I've really brought Sissi in.
I want to just ask you one question, taking off from the point you said that you don't bring in the historical people into it. Why do you need then? Because if you have to create a person from the figment of your imagination, why do you have to go to the place then? Because you always travel to the place.
Yes.
I believe your next thriller is set in Portugal, and you've spent some time in Portugal, the way you spend some time in Germany. So why do you have to physically then go to the place? Because you are not really, you can study history in the books, the creative expression is in your head. Why do you need to go to the place? What does the place bring to your book? What is the immersive experience that you have, and how do you relate it to your stories or your thrillers?
Yes. So basically, details, authenticity, research is all. So if I want to base a mystery in a particular place, I need to describe it, number one. I can't sit here. I mean, of course, people have done it. H.R.F. Keating has written an entire Inspector Ghote series in India without coming to India in times when there was no internet. But I look at it differently. I feel that unless I travel to that place and really get introduced to the culture, to the people, I won't be able to bring that authentic angle to the book, okay? I don't want people to think, here's an Indian writer trying to write a book about some part of Europe. Basically, this book has no Indian characters. There's only Ray Parker, who's the detective, who's half Indian, half French, and the rest of the characters are all foreign characters, okay? They're all Westerners. So to really understand how they think, the food they eat, how would they react? Indians are all melodramatic, and we like to, we're very emotional we react very emotionally. Not everyone is like that. So how would a certain person react in a certain situation? Or for example, if I'm talking about something happening in the middle of the night, at 12 in the night, on a particular street, okay? what is the lighting like at then? How many people would be on the street? How much time would it take from, say, the police station to the cemetery in the middle of the night? These are all things that I will not get sitting here. And I really need to go there, live that life only to recreate it through my books. So the element of fiction is only adding to the element of history and research that I'm bringing in there. And why do I need to go into history? Because the books are all about reintroducing some angle of that country or that city to the audiences. So for example, in Voice of the Runes, I'm talking about rune stones. We've all heard about Norse mythology, but rune stones and the encryptions on them and the language that's used, that's a new thing. And I like to reintroduce that in a thriller. Or in the trailer for, I go to Salzburg in Schloss Leopoldstraße where the film Sound of Music was shot. And I want to reintroduce that palace, not as the Sound of Music palace, but a different Ray Parker mystery. So I love to go there, experience that whole place, and bring it to the readers in a different form. So without that research and without bringing history in there, the books just won't have that authenticity that I want.
So would you like to just read an excerpt of from your book which captures to some extent, I mean, okay, it's a big book, just some extent to how you have immersed the...
Do we have the time?
Yeah, just take 2 minutes because
okay,
people will then understand what you're saying, and then I will, yeah.
Okay, let me just see. I wasn't ready for that.
Okay, sorry to have sprung you up. We didn't rehearse this. But I just felt while talking to you, because you've done many countries, it could have been, easy way could have been that you, suppose you go to Germany or you go to only the German-speaking countries, then you could have, captured the Germanic, but you have gone to different countries. So I just thought it would be nice.
I can't seem to find a descriptive passage, but I can read something about Ray Parker and Rosamund.
Yeah.
Okay, so in the first two books, so Ray Parker is I must talk about him a bit.
Course.
Ray Parker is a person who gets visions of a place before he actually goes there. So he can sense doom. And he understands energy. So if I look at you, I won't look at you, I'll see your aura or the energy. And that's how he works. He's not a very typical detective. He'll only work with, clues and all that. So Ray senses people, and Ray can find out whether a person is good or bad, or things like that. And that helps him in his deduction.
So does the energy or what you do of Ray come from the fact that your mother is a very, very well-known astrologer? And through the whole thing, because astrology is linked to stars and all that, do you get inspiration, a bit of that, in the character of Ray?
Yes, absolutely. In this book, yes, but also in the other two books that I have to mention here. I've written the two books called The Cosmic Clues and Stellar Signs, where the detective solves cases with the help of astrology, horoscopes. Because, horoscopes are maps. Whether you believe in them or not, you do go and read your horoscopes in newspapers. And with a good astrologer, you can read characters and tell if a person can be criminal or not. And it's a very scientific thing which I've tried to use in the books. In this book particularly, yes, because I've grown up in a spiritual background, and I believe that there's so much around us that we don't understand, that there's so much we don't know about life as yet, and there are many ways in which to deduct or deduce something, and I think energy is one way. So yes, that certainly helps. So the character Ray, of course, is important, but there's also another character, Rosamund, I said, whose energies confuse Ray all the time. And he's attracted to her, but she's also a kind of a suspect. And so this little two paras are about that. Rosamund had captivated him. The 3 encounters he had with her were of the oddest nature. She seemed to be in a perpetual delirious state of mind. And yet, she seemed to know what she was talking about. She wasn't rambling. She was lucid and in grip of her emotions. Had she really seen Ludwig drowning? Some would call it hallucinating. Ray's experience of the psychic and unnatural was deep, and he was not above believing that such an experience was possible. He rarely brushed off something as a mere product of imagination. It wasn't a common occurring, of course, and often, with him, they were just an occasional flash of vision. Was Rosamund from the same category as him, Or was she experiencing something different? A strong suspicion was taking root in his mind. It wasn't impossible. He had heard many tales of reincarnation. Could Rosamond be the Empress of Austria's reincarnation? Her hallucinations, the way she slipped from third person to first person, her reactions in the museum, all made sudden sense. Were flashes of her past life encroaching into her present life and confusing her reality? Was Rosamond indeed Sissy from last life?
Thank you for that.
Thank you.
I'd also now like to ask you, how are destination thrillers really different to ordinary thrillers?
Yep, so, like I said, that without the destination, there would not be a thriller, and, the destination is a character. But thrillers, if you want to talk about the structure of a novel, a thriller normally takes you in a fast-paced, say 48 hours, 36 hours, whatever, in a wide range across the world. For example, you pick up any thriller and you will have something happening in, say, Bangkok, something in the USA, multiple parallel activities happening which all converge in the end in a fast-paced, mode in the end. With my thrillers, there's always a single point of view. I do take you across the globe, but it's always through one character. I'll give you an example. In Voice of the Runes, I write about from a single viewpoint, which is not the detectives. So when you write from a viewpoint of one of the major characters, it's only her viewpoint. But on the other hand, I'm trying to solve a mystery. So how does she, guess what's happening with Ray? So that was a challenge, and when you do a single viewpoint, to do it in 48 hours, like a fast-paced thing, is a challenge again. And I think this is where these destination thrillers are different from a normal thriller, which take you across multiple viewpoints, multiple places, and multiple, journeys.
Thank you for sharing your views, Manjiri. I always feel that it's always nice to have some interaction, and we've spoken enough. So are there any questions you'd like to ask Manjiri? Anything about her book, her style of writing, her creative imagination? Yeah, there's is there a mic?
No, you can take this.
No, we have two mics.
Mic here.
We have two mics.
Okay, so very interesting conversation, I must say. And I am an Agatha Christie buff, so I resonate with whatever you were saying. But the question is, in the age of Netflix and the kind of distractions we are seeing around us, this is a genre of murder mysteries and stuff like that. Is there a challenge for you in holding on to your readership? I mean, that's the question, because I find I have drifted away from fiction because there's simply no time. We watch too much Netflix. So do you think that's a challenge for writers like you, where you have created a space, but how do you hold on to your readership?
Holding on to a readership is always a challenge. No matter which genre you're writing, whether it's fiction, non-fiction, I think finding the right reader is really very difficult with every passing day. Having said that, I think I write because I love writing, and I know that if I don't write, I won't survive. I also write because I'm a very imaginative person. In fact, I feel there are multiple personalities in me, split personalities. I might go schizophrenic one day if I don't write. But readership, I think every book has its destiny, okay? And once you write it, there will be a reader. There would be 2 readers, there may be 200, there may be 2,000, there may be 2 lakh. The sales game is a very different game altogether, which will take 2 hours to talk. But yes, in times where Netflix and Amazon and everything is happening, the good thing about writing is that your readers can be found through the visual medium too. For example, book rights can be sold because they always need good stories. So even if you don't find actual readers, maybe your book will also you'll be able to sell the film rights. And other than that, I think finding readers is seriously very difficult. I mean, I don't know how to answer that because it's tough.
I think there was somebody here who wanted to ask a question.
Yeah.
There. Could we have the mic? No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So my question was, what is your creative trigger? You said that does a story start a book for you or a location starts a book for you. So what is your creative trigger? When you say, hey, I want to go and research Sissi and Austria, and how does that go?
So, well, it's a question which is very important to me, especially for this series, because I have not understood the trigger. I'll tell you why. Way back in, do we have the time? I've got exactly 1 minute to tell you. Way back in 1998, I went backpacking with my husband, and I went to the Schloss Leopoldskron where I wrote my first destination thriller. And they do the Salzburg, the Sound of Music tour, and I saw the Schloss across the lake. And I saw it and I said, oh, I want to go in there. In 2000, I went there for a seminar, and I entered the palace, and I looked at the palace and I said, hey, I want to base a thriller here. In 2012, look at this journey where it started for the destination thrillers. In 2012, I went there, went back, stayed at the palace, wrote my book, The Trail of Four, and since then, every venue, some way or the other, has called me. And there's one very big linking factor, and that's a human heart. In this palace in Schloss Leopoldskron, in the cathedral, there's a human heart buried in there. In the cathedral and Voice of the Ruins in the Lund University, where it's based, there's a human heart buried there. And I didn't know this. I just go there and discover this. So I feel that I've been led to these, I don't go out and seek them. I feel I've been called there. I know it might sound pretty esoteric, but really that's the truth.
I'm sorry, you can talk to her, because I can see Manil walking very purposefully towards me, and so you'll handle that. Thank you very much, Manjiri, for sharing your ideas and your triggers. Thank you, JLF, for being the place for you to release your lovely book, and thank you for being such an interactive audience. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
One more time, a big round of applause for Manjiri Prabhu. May you get the triggers and keep on writing for us. And thank you, Alka Pande. Before we get to the next session, I would like to thank our sponsors, ABP, Amazon, Artex, Ashoka University, Blue One Inc., Bank of Baroda, British Council, Culture Ireland, Diageo, DIPR, DLF, Easy Diner, Ekunk, Alaman 94, Etsy, HarperCollins, Hawthornden Foundation, Harvard University Press, and Murthy Classical Library, Irish Embassy, iStart, Foundation Jon Michalewski, JCB, LIC, Manipal Hospitals, National Book Trust, Paytm, Penguin, Plan India, Pocket FM, Rajasthan Tourism, Racket, Ben Kaiser, Dettol, Roostree, SBI, Shiksha, Sankul, Norwegian Embassy, the US Embassy, TV9, UN Women, VFS Global Wellbeing Nutrition, WSSO, Embassy of Ireland, Kingfisher, Art Buzz, supported by Embassy of New Zealand, German Embassy, the Italian Cultural Center, Dominican Embassy, Estonian Embassy, European Union, Australian Embassy, French Embassy, and Spain Embassy. Our media partners, Rajasthan Patrika, New Indian Express, Amar Ujala, Sakal Media Group, The Week, Dainik Bhaskar, Business Standard, Red FM, Inox Media, and Amar Chitrakatha. And thanks to all of you for being here for this wonderful festival here. Thank you.